Hello, friends. It's good to be able to talk with you here for a couple of minutes. And I admit it's a little longer than a couple of minutes, but these are complicated times. My pastoral letter, even, is a little longer than I'd have preferred. And my sermon on Sunday is a little longer than I would have preferred on one hand. But on the other hand, I think we're in complicated times and there aren't simplistic solutions. I see that all the time where people are trying to make it all just simplistic. And here's like this little slogan that makes us understand what we should do about coronavirus. Or here's this little simplistic slogan or statement that makes us all now understand how to handle all the racism of the world. And it's like, man, it's more complicated than that, and a lot's going on. How do you make sense of it? And so, for what it's worth, if it helps, I'm going to give you a story or two from my own experience, and then just trying to figure things out and let you know I'm with you in this. I mean, the confusion, the heaviness, the challenges, the unknown. I just want to walk that road with you. When we see the police brutality and the racism and the anger that brings, um, for me myself, I realize, man, sometimes I scratch my head and say I'm not sure how to handle it and what to do. And brings me back to high school days when I went from a very white high school in West Virginia and growing up in a family where we didn't have racism and stuff like that. I was never taught to look differently at another person because of their skin color or anything like that. So I ended up in high school in Florida in a very racially diverse high school. And so I'm thinking, well, as a Christian, we treat everybody equally, which means that we treat everybody the same. So I'm a sarcastic, young punk teenager who will crack jokes about anything and anybody. And with my friends, we, trash talk and stuff. And so there's an African American girl in one of my classes who had some ripped jeans, and so I cracked some jokes that I would have said exactly the same thing to my male white friends in that exact same way, because equality means you treat people the same, right? Oh man, I got a verbal lashing from her, cussed out in the middle of the class with all the students like starting to step back and be like, "Whoa, skinny white boy! I don't know what he did, but he's getting it now." And I mean, she cursed me out, cursed five generations of custers back in the day. I mean, it was crazy. I sent notes to her through some of her other friends later in the day, just trying to make peace, and finally got to talk to her face to face, and she's like, "Wait, this skinny white boy is like humbling himself and apologizing to me." Like, it was the weirdest kind of interchange. And I realized at that time, I thought, man, I contributed to hurt that she has had at the hands of other people who really were racist, who were really truly trying to put her down. I mean, she gave a speech at our graduation that just poured out this emotion and hurt and pain and anger. And I mean, it just went on. And my parents later were like, "Wow, Nathan, like we had no idea that kind of stuff was going on. Like this is bad, right?" And I mean, it was crazy. And so, what did I learn? Well, I learned, man, even sometimes in your best intentions, uh, we don't understand each other. Like, and we come from almost different worlds. I mean, I just had no idea. And so, man, do I feel for folks and just kind of the folks that are victims of truly violent kind of racism and sexism and those types of things. And at the same time, I feel for folks who are meaning well, trying to do the right thing, and just sometimes fail at that, or the good intentions aren't met with the way we meant for them to be met. It's like, oh my gosh, so complicated. Um, Let me throw in a couple of other stories. So, a friend of mine is half Puerto Rican and half white. So, one parent's Puerto Rican, one parent is white, lives in the Columbus area. And in the Columbus metro area, he has been pulled over multiple times by police officers while he's been driving with no ticket issued, no good reason given. Take his license, look at it, go back to the car, make him sit there like he did something wrong, like he's a criminal. This is a really good Christian guy, you know. I mean, amazing family. They don't harm anybody. There is no good reason. And he said, "Nathan, this has happened to me multiple times." Man, can you imagine? And some of you are like, "Well, yeah, I can imagine because this happens to me." And others of us are like, "Man, I that's never happened. It's never happened to me. Never happened to any of my family members. We can't understand." what it is to have that kind of a relationship with police officers, and just kind of this general skeptical way or general way of feeling like you're always degraded and sad. And it doesn't have to be very many officers to make others feel that way, right? And that's why I feel for police officers as well. I was talking with a detective friend of mine who said, when I started in on the force, it was great. Like I felt like I was making a difference, and it was respected, and it was just a powerfully wonderful experience. He said, now I feel like everybody is skeptical and angry at us and treats us like trash and unappreciated. And here I'm trying to put my life on the line every day. And he's like, I don't recommend that anybody go into this line of work anymore. Another friend of mine who's a beat cop in an urban section of Columbus, he said, you could just kind of see despair in his eyes. He said, I don't know if I'm making a difference or not. He said, here, I'm trying to help, and I'll try to make a legitimate arrest and try to, get the other people to help me to understand what happened. Even the victims, they won't help me. There's skepticism, if this anti-snitch culture. He said, man, I don't know what to do. Talked with a friend of mine who's a police officer who makes drug busts every week, multiple days a week. They're busting in the doors. They're doing, I mean, legitimate fighting against evil, right? And he said, Nathan, we shut down one drug house, and the next week two more crop up down the street. And he said the filth that we see, the degrading humanity that we see in these homes, and the way children are treated. He said, I have to do devotions twice a day to be able to keep my head above water and to be able to think clearly, and not just become cynical and angry all the time. Man, is this complicated. I mean, so complicated. What do you do? I mean, right? We're like, well, how can we make a difference? Well, we can do what we can. And so I look at that and I say, but we can do what we can. So if you see a police officer today, and there's some way that you can bless them, maybe you buy them coffee, pay for their lunch, just go up to them and say, hey, my pastor says you've got like one of the least appreciated jobs on the planet right now. I just want you to hear from me. I thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. You see a person of color, and you're a white person. I don't know. I mean, can you smile at them? Can you encourage them? Can you buy them the coffee or the lunch? Or if you're a person of color, can you talk to us and say, hey, here's, yeah, like my friend, half Puerto Rican, half white. Had he not told me, I would have had no idea that this is a lived experience by a deep friend of mine who would give his life for any number of people around. I mean, just probably anybody. Like, I mean, he's that kind of guy. And here he's been subjected to that. I wouldn't have realized that had he not told me. So thank you. So, Jennifer and I, when we're in neighborhood that is somewhat racially mixed, and so we've got some neighbors. I mean, one family that's an immigrant family from Africa, another family that's an immigrant family from India. I mean, we're not solving all the world's problems walking around the neighborhood, but we do try to take an extra step to smile. You know, African American guy was walking down the street, and I made a specific attempt to at least try to be friendly and to help him to know, like, this is a safe place for you. I mean, I'm glad that you're here. You know, we do what we can. We do what we can, though. So let's talk about the church building for a second. We're doing what we can. And this is complicated. There is no easy slogan. There's no easy way to make these decisions. Our leadership team and our staff and some of the FMT, facilities management team folks, all got together. You can read all the details in that pastoral letter. I put maybe more details than you'd want, but all the details are there, so you know exactly the decision-making process. We got together and we realized, okay, looking at all the different regulations from the state, from the county health department, from our West Ohio conference, what's going to be the safest for people. We realized the best we can do right now is to open up the offices Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And that's really all that we can open up our building to right now. The offices, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And you say, what? Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, I really am happy to be able to do that. And we're going to treat it just as the state says we should treat office business environments. And so we're going to do the best we can with the masks, the hygiene, the social distancing. We got to live into that. We're going to do the best we can. I would love to have you all there and to hug on you and worship together and sing together and high five and shake hands. I mean, man, would I love to do that. And you were like, Really? You would want to be around me, Nathan? Seriously, with all my stuff and my issues, you'd like to be around me? Yes, I would like to be around you. I wish we could all worship together and just be together all the time and use the building. And it's not smart. It's not safe. It's not sound. It's not wise. We can't do that yet. Details you can see in the paper. So, someday we'll get there. Now, the good news, and I'll talk about this on Sunday in the sermon. So you kind of have to watch that to get the full story. But the good news is the church is the people. Wherever you are, there's the church. And when you're out there and you're blessing people of other ethnicities, you're blessing police officers, you're blessing other public servants, you're blessing other neighbors around you, the church is at work. Our church has never been closed in terms of the actual church because we're actively out there. We're blessing people. We're a light in the world. I'll talk about it Sunday. I'll see you Sunday. But between now and then, I pray you'll bless people and be a light in this world. In Jesus' name, amen.